Hey, Brigham with Drift here. In this video, 5 things I think you should know about the Nitro Pantera, the 2025 Nitro Pantera. That's right, folks, this board is from the future. Before I get into the details, check out my specs and my biases below so you know where I'm coming from. We own the boards that we talk about, we get them in a variety of conditions, and then we let you know what we think. But this board is unique. This is actually the first board that I'm reviewing that we don't own. And a little story time to explain that. If you've watched my 40 boards in 4 days video, and you should if you haven't, you know that I demoed the Pantera and it pretty much blew my mind. I loved it. Benny Pellegrino, longtime head guy at Nitro USA, hit me up after seeing that video and said, why don't you come grab the Pantera, take it for a long-term review? And I said, absolutely. So here we are. This is the 160. It's just wide enough for me. I would love to have, I think, one size up and the wide version, 163 wide, but this was still plenty of board. Okay, so the first thing you should know is that this is not a board that's going to be for everybody. I mean, if you read the marketing material, you know that this is a monster board meant for aggressive high-speed riding. But that said, even though it's not for everybody, if you love snowboarding and you love to go fast and you love to ride hard, I think this is the kind of board that you absolutely should get on at some point and experience it. It has a new shape for 2025. You'll notice the tail and the nose are a little bit different. It looks a little more directional. Underfoot, it's pretty much the same. The smaller sizes are a tiny bit wider, but I think that's about it. And then the other big change is that there's some milling in the core that reduces the thickness right here between the bindings. That is said to affect torsional flex. I don't know in practice what kind of difference it makes, but it looks cool. The second thing I'd share, the defining characteristic of this board is that it is stiff and it is full camber. And when I say full camber, we're talking about a serious bow of camber. So camber's making a comeback. There's some popular boards right now with full camber, the Standard on Ink, the Alternator, the Aviator 2.0. These are some boards that I've loved this year and last year. And comparing them, this thing has way more camber than those boards. For example, the Standard on Ink is probably half or less of a bow of camber. And I'm not criticizing it. I love that board. But just so you understand it, like the level of aggression on this thing, the bow of camber is significant, significantly more than anything I've ridden in a long time. But that said, it kind of makes me want to rant a little bit. You know, when I read online and get questions and stuff like that, everybody's afraid of camber. Like, is it gonna be too catchy? Is it gonna kick me to the curb? You know, do I have to be on my A game all the time? And I guess I get that. The vast majority of boards that are the most popular now have some rocker in them. And maybe this is just me being an old guy, but I'm just like, it's just a snowboard. It reminds me of the late 90s and what all the snowboards were like. Yeah. If you weren't careful, you would catch edges, but that's what snowboarding was. This thing locks in on a carve. It's so fun on a groomer. And the third thing I would share about it, it is so stable at speed. I mean, this will go as fast as you dare to go. The harder you push it, the more it gives back. At least for me, I couldn't find the limit of this board. The fourth thing I would share is that outside of the groomer and, you know, charging and carving, it's really fun all over the mountain in variable terrain. It does well hammering through leftover powder. It's pretty good in like nasty frozen chop. It's not even that bad swinging it around in the trees as long as they're not too tight. Like, this is billed as kind of a high-speed charging all-mountain board, and it is that. It's fairly damp, but because of that camber, you can load it up and seriously pop with it. It's stiff, but it's not insanely stiff. You can skid a turn on it. It's just, again, it's old school camber, which if you're younger and you've never ridden that, I think if you love snowboarding, you should ride it. And then the fifth thing that everyone will wonder about, and it'll be exactly what you expect, but powder performance is not going to be great. It's going to be exactly what you expect, a lot of leaning back. When half of the board is pointing downwards into the powder before you get that uplift, you know, you're not going to get amazing float, and that's not the goal here. So don't buy it as a powder board. It would be kind of cool to see like an extra set of inserts for a float pack, so you could just set this thing back and it would probably be okay in kind of that old school set back camber way in powder, but nothing like some of the other powder boards out there. But again, your trade-off there is the way that this thing carves and the insane stability it has at speed. So it's not a powder board, don't get it for that. But as I said, if you love snowboarding, you love riding hard, you love riding fast, absolutely. This board's been around a long time. It doesn't change a whole lot. But to me, this is the kind of board you should get on at some point. I loved it. It's the Nitro Pantera. Thanks for watching. Hit me up in the comments if you got any questions or any insights. Love to hear from you. If you're new here, hit the like, hit the subscribe. I know it's cliche, but that stuff is literally what keeps us alive and will allow us to keep reviewing boards. And we'll see you next time.